started. So, and I will share. So I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for being here today. I know that Friday, as we're all moving back, or many of us are moving back into classrooms and everything after a long week, can be a lot. And so I just want to say that I value everyone's time, and I just feel very blessed to be in this virtual room with everyone today. This is the Department of Learning and Teaching, Black Lives Matter, Social Justice and Advocacy series. And this is our first official one of the 2021-2022 school year. And we're really excited to bring this series back for another year, because we do believe that this work is ongoing and will need to continue probably for quite some time. And so today we're talking about Black voices and KidLit, and we have some really wonderful guest speakers and different activities that we're going to be doing today. And I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for being here.
Okay, and on our agenda today, we have, we're going to ground ourselves in our solidarity statement and then go into Black voices in KidLit, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that means, and then our own KidLit experiences, and that's an interactive activity where we get to engage in a really fun exercise and dialogue. And then we'll have our guest speaker, Brandi Grant, sharing with us some of her expertise and knowledge around Black voices in KidLit. And then we'll hear from Books and Bros, which is another guest panelist that we have. And then we'll go over our resource list, and we'll have our closing remarks by Dr. Stolz, who's generous enough to close us in today's program. And so as we ground ourselves in our work and our solidarity statement, we highlight the schooling piece in our statement for this particular event, which reads, "We challenge all educators to look at their K-12 and higher education institutions. Does the staff, leadership, and teachers represent the student body? Does it represent the communities around the school, the district, or county? We can all benefit from diversity, from anti-racist and equitable hiring practices that encourage the hiring of people of color."
And just so you know, we are going to be popping in our website that has our full solidarity statement and a lot of the resources. And we've done some really amazing things with it over the summer. So please check that out. All right, Mabelle?
Okay, guys, if you could please hit play on the soundbite that we have going on there.
Imagination is what has given us food and shelter. Imagination has given us clothes and education. Imagination has given us social media and video games. It's given us music and definitely literature. It's even given us hand sanitizer, which is basically the same as, well, literature. It's sometimes a little strange and a little stinky, but becomes an amazing habit because you know rubbing it in, there's no washing it off, kills germs, the invisible germs that have attached themselves to us as we move through life. Literature kills germs. Jason Reynolds, National Ambassador for Young People's Literature.
Great, thank you. This time of year marks a new beginning for many of us. Some of us are starting year one of a PhD program, and others of us are coming back to class after summer break, and many of us are here as educators and supporters of learning and social justice. We can't think of a better time to talk about children's literature when educators and families may be thinking about how they will curate their students' libraries. So today, we'll be thinking about our own relationship with children's books. We'll hear from innovators who are doing the work to amplify Black KidLit creators, And we'll consider how we can take action to make sure all kids are represented in the books they read. As we begin, let's hear more from Jason Reynolds, who, as a child, was a reluctant reader and has now made it his mission to get kids excited about reading.
Diversity in its simplest, sort of most distilled definition to me just means inclusivity, right? I think oftentimes when we talk about diversity, the knee-jerk reaction is that we're talking about race, and I think it's a bit oversimplified and a bit minimal, and it limits sort of what diversity actually is. I do think that the racial conversation is definitely a part of it. We need more books by and about people of color, but besides that, we also need books by and about people with different disabilities, different mental differences, LGBTQ community, and even just different socioeconomic structures, right? I think when we talk about there's a lot of talk about like the white suburban story, and I think that story is sort of a standard, but what would it be like to hear a story about a poor white kid? I mean, that's also a part of the diverse conversation, right? So I think it just is about sort of being inclusive about all the stories. We need all the stories. And the reason why is because young people, kids, teens, we have an opportunity as authors and as writers and as adults to sort of help them and grow them into empathetic human beings so that we can sort of stop some of the traps that we've been experiencing since as long as this country's been around, right? I mean, like, if we can raise and grow empathetic young people through literature, then some of the prejudices they won't have because they've already sort of read about some of these people and they've been normalized, right? These people have been normalized to them in their lives so that they don't have to see them as other or as different or as outside or as marginalized, right? That they're humans and they're people just like they are.
So as we enter into our activity section, we need to go over our discussion norms. So for our norms, we will listen with intentionality and be okay with awkward and silence. Speak your truth, share authenticity, and use I statements. Respect confidentiality. Experience lean into discomfort. Be mindful of time so all can share. Recognize that this is unfinished work. Recognize your communication style and examine your own assumptions and perceptions.
All right, thank you. Mabelle?
Now we invite you to consider your own experiences as young readers. In breakout rooms, you'll have the opportunity to share your responses to the following questions. What books did you read when you were a child? Describe the main characters in the stories you remember. And as you consider race, class, differing abilities, do you notice any patterns? How did you see yourself represented in children's books? And then please be sure to elect someone to share out when we come back into the big group. So I'm going to put the link for the slides in here. And then
I can move everybody into groups.
I think, are we all back, Dr. Jess? Does it look like?
We are.
Oh, great. All right. Well, welcome back, everyone. And this is the part where we get to share out all of our awesome takeaways. And hopefully we've all elected a person to represent to be the spokesperson for our groups. And if we're ready, we can start with group one. What came up for you? We're looking at these awesome covers, and please tell us a little bit more about what we're seeing.
hello, everyone. So I will be the representative for group one. And one of the texts that kept coming up was the Babysitters Club. Big, memorable impact on many of us. But we also spoke about how it didn't necessarily reflect our cultural experience, but it was around and it was really popular. We talked about how most of us did not see ourselves represented in the children's books that were out there. But we also reflected on how Reading Rainbow had a huge impact on making us aware of what was out there. And we also talked about how possibilities to provide access to student teachers or new teachers, how to get the funds, possibly a grant to be able to curate their library that reflects a more diverse population. And it's just getting more resources and realizing that it's a very slow process, but changes are being made in the publishing industry.
Thanks, Mabelle. That was great. That's awesome. The great takeaways. And then group 2, what came up for you?
Hi, everyone. My name is Jen, and I will be representing group 2. We had a really good share out. As you can see, we have a lot of different kinds of books, diverse characters in some of them. And I think one of the things we did talk about is identity. So, for example, in Corduroy, you can see the character Lisa. She, for me, was the only brown girl I saw for a very long time as a kid with books. And we also identified with what the characters are going through, like in Judy Blume and some other books of different kinds of family dynamics, things that were really pivotal points in our lives that also became a source of healing in really identifying what the characters were going through. Ferdinand, that was brought up. Somebody said that they identified with the nonconformity of the bull, and then seeing that reflected in the ways in which they moved about the world as a kid. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. That was great. Well, we hope that everybody was able to kind of reflect and kind of go back to that place in their childhood and kind of lean into some of the characters and some of the representations and where we situated ourselves and continue to situate ourselves within literature, within KidLit. And with that, I will hand it over to Michelle.
Thank you so much, Zulema. So so to continue our conversation about resources, right? Where can we find this literature where we can identify, not only see ourselves, but see others? And then once again, our identity, those narratives that speak to the fabric of our country, of the background, but the love and just the greatness about the diversity that we do have here. And so it is my great pleasure to introduce one of our guest speakers who is going to help us in finding these resources for not only in schools, but also for our personal libraries. So Brandi Grant is not only a friend, but a former colleague. She is a teacher librarian who is currently in Frisco, Texas at a middle school called Pearson. Brandi centers and approaches her work with a mantra that says diversity always in all ALL ways. Her goal is to provide a safe, nurturing, and flexible learning environment where students feel seen, heard, valued, and celebrated. Whoever enters her doors, hopefully feels that the library belongs to them and they are free to collaborate, innovate, and escape. Prior to becoming a teacher librarian of 10 years, Brandi Grant taught 8th grade language arts for 9 years. She is a proud graduate of the University of North Texas with a degree in education, and Texas Women's University with a master's in library science. And most importantly, she is a wife and a mother of 2 boys who she affectionately called Team Having Fun. So if we can bring our hearts and minds together and really start our discussion, Brandi, about not only your work, but also the s'more that you created for us. But before we get to the s'more, Brandi, I would like to ask you a question. Why is diversity important in KidLit?
It is, the reason why it's so important is I just kind of go back to my own experiences as being a kid, and I just didn't see myself, and I didn't know how other people lived and how I fit into that. And so going forward and dealing with middle schoolers, they feel the same exact way. They want multiple perspectives. They do not want it to be single layered and one-dimensional. They want to know all the things, all the ways, and diversity is one of those ways where they get to do that. They get to see that in a safe environment, and it's right now, especially with middle schoolers, especially with kids, empathy needs to be learned, and diversity, and through diverse text and through getting to see and experience different types of people helps to build that empathy that, I mean, we all need, that this world needs.
So in creating, I know that we charged you with an important task, and that was to really enlighten us and really showcase some resources that we can use. One of the great things about our events is that we try so hard to bring resources that are very applicable and that are easily accessible. So if you could at this time kind of walk us through the resources that you provided for us, but also kind of give us a context of how you compiled these resources for us.
Well, I start with the teacher in mind. I know that's kind of different. I don't think about necessarily students, because I know that students value diverse text. I know that they want inclusive literature. I guess people that I'm trying to win over are adults. They're the educators, because either they are looking or viewing literature through one lens, or they are afraid to expand their horizons. So I try my best to, when I'm creating a resource, is to think about who is going to use it. Is it easy? Is it something that they can implement immediately, and that it's not overwhelming? And so what I try to do is think about the curriculum that that is being used, and how I can weave diversity throughout that curriculum.
Okay, awesome. If you can kind of go through like this first page of why diversity and inclusive literature is important. I love this graphic that you have for us.
this graphic has been flowing all around for years, and it is a strong graphic that truly states the case of why diversity is needed. I mean, I feel sometimes that we think, okay, we have diverse literature, so we're done, but we're really not, because in 2018, you could see that there are so many underrepresented groups that that do not have literature in comparison to animals and white counterparts. So this is one that just keeps everything into perspective of why diversity is so important, especially in children's books. Mm-hmm. So you could see, the Asian and Native American First Nations, Latinx, Asian and Pacific Islanders, African Americans. It doesn't even compare to animals. Animals have more representation than these groups. And so, it's a hard truth, but it's the truth. And it's one of those truths that is important for people to see and to digest and to process. And then once they start thinking like, okay, wow, that is something that I need to work on, then I can go into how can I help you? And so this is another graphic that talks about the different subpopulations and just how many books per year that need to be written to be equal to white Americans. And I just thought that this graphic was just staggering, that we would need 1,421 more books by BIPOC authors. And so it's definitely time for us to start writing and us to start encouraging students to write and to see that that it's possible. So once I started with that, the link, you don't have to pull it up, but it's called a diversity audit. And basically it is a set of questions that you can go through and audit a school library or a literature collection just to see how diverse it is. I kind of center myself on Dr. Rudin Sims Bishop and her quote about children's books, and they are mirrors and they're windows and they're sliding doors. Mm-hmm. And she is just a literature rock star. I believe, she was well beyond before her time in the 90s with pushing diversity and how diversity in literature can impact students and impact children's lives. So I did that. And then there are just quotes, and I always tell teachers that these are great little quotes that you can just start, just little reminders, to start thinking about and talking to your counterparts about, that are digestible, instead of giving them a long article to read, short bits of information to kind of reflect and process and pique their interest. And that is more palatable than a long article. And then, of course, you draw them in with Jason Reynolds. Jason Reynolds is the author of our time right now. He speaks to so many different types of children, and he makes it so relatable. And so he is one of those people. He's a thought leader. He's an educator. He's an author. He's a poet, and he's just an amazing human being in terms of diversity and social justice. And he makes it. He pulls at your heartstrings, but he makes it really easy. You want to listen to him. So instead of it being preachy, especially with adults, you want something to where you're going to meet people where they are. And I feel like he's the type of author and speaker that can do that. And then I just go into my resources. I just think about which students need to be represented, what books are not just fitting the group, but that are relevant, that are current, and that are just great reads. And I just came up with a list. I got lists from other places, and I just think about what books I would have loved to have had when I was that particular age, and I came up with my list.
I love the fact that you have like picture books, because that is one of those, it's what do they say? It's the eyes and the taste that get us hooked. Mm-hmm. And I think it's, it's those picture books that are the that grab us at the very beginning. And then what's the next set that you have?
Well, and one thing about picture books, and that's why I put it on there, picture books are for all, especially when you have a difficult topic or you're having to have difficult conversations, or you're addressing themes that are more mature. There are picture books. I feel like picture books have always been there to guide us and to help have those conversations. Picture books are great for every grade level. There has been a boom in the publishing industry for nonfiction books, especially for children and young adults. And it's not just the textbook information. It's more about, how to evolve, how to be an activist, explaining social justice. And I'm super excited about nonfiction. And I'm seeing a lot of students gravitating to nonfiction because they want to know, they've seen these things on TV, they've seen these people, these activists and these revolutionaries, and they want to know about them. And they also want to know how they can do it too. So nonfiction has really taken a turn from just being just the textbook to more of how can I use this to build my platform. And then middle grade books. This was the hardest part for me to curate. These books are like my children. I can't pick which one I should put. I spent so much time on this, but what I wanted to do was give a list that represented everyone, that didn't just talk about the downtrodden part of that particular culture or whatever. It's more about, I wanted to have different things. Like I wanted people who to have joy and friendship drama and learning who they are. And yes, these are themes that are relatable to every kid, but the perspective is different because the authors or the characters may be different than them. And that's the hopeful part of literature right now, is there's so many amazing stories where a student or a reader can see someone who is a magician, but then is also dealing with immigration issues. They are the intersection of literature and lives, and it gives me hope that we're moving towards a more diverse field of literature. We're not there yet. I'm hoping one day it'll just be normalized to where everyone's like, okay, we don't have to say it is this type. It's just what it is. So that is my hope. Graphic novels are another way of talking about tough topics. Graphic novel has started to boom, and they're starting to take those books that have those themes and those difficult themes, and they are starting to put them in a graphic novel format. And I feel like this is the exciting part, because a lot of students, aren't, some students aren't readers. Some students can't get through a book, but they can experience diversity, and they can experience a story through a graphic novel now. And so graphic novels, it's starting. The diversity, the inclusivity is starting. I'm starting to see a lot of amazing graphic novels that focus on diversity. And then I just gave some additional reading lists. Project Lit is an amazing resource of if you want to start a book club. If you are trying to figure out which books would be appropriate, which books are vetted to where they are appropriate for the age group. Brown Bookshelf is another one. If you're trying to curate a list or order books for your classroom libraries, or to find gifts for someone, Diverse Book Finders is another one. And I'm super proud of Read Woke. Cicely Lewis was the 2020 School Librarian of the Year, and she created a movement. And she created a movement when a lot of people were pushing back because of wokeness. And she's a force. She encourages high schools and middle schools to read those books that are diverse and that may be controversial, and to have deep discussions about them. And that's one part that is so important. It's not just to read them, but also to start having conversations that surround the themes that are in the books. So I put some different reading lists to further give you an idea, some more ideas of other books that you can check to purchase. But then I thought about, okay, as an educator, you have the books. Now what? What do you do? So how do you push these books to kids? How do you present them to kids? And so I just gave 2 easy classroom resources that you can do. First Chapter Friday. I encourage my ILA department to do this all the time. And I give them a couple of diverse novels, tell them just read 1 chapter on a Friday. And students love to be read to. Even at middle grade, even at high school, they love to be read to. As long as you read with passion, as long as you have that great book with a good hook, they're going to want to listen, they're going to be engaged, and they're going to want to check those books out. And then another one, I always do a book tasting. And when I do it, a book tasting is basically, it's like I set my library up as a restaurant. But we are not eating food. We are eating books. We are digesting books, and we are getting tastes of books. And that is a great way to hit them all with different types of diverse novels. It does not just have to be about culture or race, but that's where you can get the LGBTQ, the neurodiversities, the problems with socioeconomic issues, all of bullying, all of those different things throughout your book tasting, to where all students kind of see different sides, different points of view, but then they also see themselves, or they also find something, a book that they can relate to. So I do these all the time because I just want my teachers, I want my staff to understand that diversity, it's not hard. It's not hard to encourage and to teach diversity, but it is one thing that it's a process, and you need allies. It's not going to just be you. You need the librarian. You need other people to help you. And so I'm always just trying to be a resource to help promote diversity, not just in my library, but throughout the school.
And Brandi, I have to tell everyone, I mean, I've seen Brandi develop this at her school, and I hope you don't mind, but her, the district that she works in, is not very diverse, but she brings this passion to where she makes you want to explore. And it is in a non-threatening way. It is more inviting. And so she has created this environment, not only at her school, but she's spreading this fire, I want to say, not only in her district, but to other librarians and to other teachers. And so I just wanted to kind of ask you quickly, like, kind of explain how you started to change this narrative in your library.
Well, I realized that it started with me. I felt like I was conforming and kind of trying to fit in and making my Blackness palatable for everyone. And I wasn't happy. And I was having conversations with students of color, and they weren't happy either. And that's when I knew I needed to change the narrative. I knew that first I needed to start with me and kind of do some soul searching on who I am and how do I represent myself and to my students. And when I figured that part out, I realized it was time for me to start acting. And it was time for me to start pushing for diversity, for me to start having hard conversations with administration. And I for a while, I was allowing people to tell my library story of how I was needing to be. And I just started taking ownership of my own story because I knew that that's what my students needed me to be. And the minute I started doing that and really having a student-centered library that was rooted in diversity and inclusivity, the kids reaped the benefits, and I did too. And I started getting allies. People started to say, you know, I want to help you with this work and support you. And that's how it became, that's how the narrative changes. And it sometimes it's hard and I get pushback, but I just remember my mantra of diversity always in all ways. And I mean, I know that this is the right things for me. I know this is the right thing for my kids. And that's what keeps me going. And that's what helps me continue to write the narrative of my story.
And so, so my last question is, what can we do to support these diverse books? Like how do we support librarians in making sure that, you know, you're not in this fight alone?
I think panels like this, the work you all are doing with having these conversations and highlighting different people and literature is very important. I feel like it's going to start with the people, the teachers and the adults. I think having more conversations, explaining why diversity and inclusivity is so important, and also teaching them how to incorporate diversity and inclusivity into their curriculum, into their classrooms. I feel like now, I don't know where everyone's from, but in Texas, laws have changed to where there's certain things that in history, certain truths that we are not people are not wanting us to discuss and to read about. And this is the time where we have to continue to show the truth, speak the truth, present the truth. And so any way that that can happen, any way that teachers can be taught not to be fearful of the truth and of sharing diverse literature with their students, that's how you promote it and you push it.
Well, Brandi, I am just so amazed, as you know, of the work that you do. You are, and I'm so glad that you brought up Dr. Bishop, because that's how I see you as an activist librarian. You are presenting a narrative, as you stated before, that it's there, but it's being lost. And so we've got to, like you said, we've got to acknowledge it, and we've got to get these voices told, because these are the voices of who we are. And we need to, like you said, we can't be shy. We can't, just feel, we have to be okay with our being uncomfortable. But we also have to understand that, like you said before, these are the voices of everyone, not just of a particular race or a particular group. So I appreciate you being here with us and sharing your expertise and your resources. I feel like, this is a step in the right direction to where we can introduce people to these voices, these counter narratives. So thank you again, and snaps to you and all the work that you do.
Thank you. It is truly an honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Brandi. We so appreciate you. I think we all agree that librarians are precious resources, the keepers of wisdom, and they are, we're just so fortunate to have them with us. Oh my. So as we move forward in this awesome learning, we are so excited to highlight an organization that is doing some very innovative work, and we're going to learn more about them in the video. So Dr. Jess, if you wouldn't mind.
Cartoon Network is celebrating great kids and asking, what are you drawn to?
I am Sidney Keys, and I'm drawn to making it happen.
Check this out, Jessica. This kid, Sidney, loves reading as much as you do.
Wow, really?
It's true, look.
Reading is so universal, and there's so much out there that you can read. When my mom took me to the first African-American children's bookstore I'd been to, when I picked up a book and started reading it, I just couldn't put that book down. Books and Bros is an African-American literature book club that I started for boys the ages 7 to 13, where we can meet up once a month and talk about African-American literature books that we read.
Wow, he started his own book club?
That's so cool! You think we could start a book club?
Yeah, I bet we could.
You can just go there and just to talk to the big bros about something that you need advice with as a mentor. And also you can just hang out with your friends as well. What I want the bros to get out of the meetups is being able to see representation of themselves in books. I want them to be able to look in a book and say, hey, I want to be just like that guy. He looks just like me. Fantasy is something that I really like a lot. Like growing up as a kid, I've always wanted to be like a knight. I wanted to be like a king and stuff like that. But every knight and king that I saw did not look like me at all. But if I was able to see characters who looked like me, it would have been a lot easier for me to say, hey, I'm a king too, I'm a black king.
And you can be a queen, Jessica.
I already am.
Books and Bros is considered a family in my eyes. It provides a place of brotherhood. And actually, parents have come to us saying that their sons' reading scores have improved, that their behavior has gotten better. Getting boys mentored and getting them exposed to African-American literature and reading is something that's extraordinary. And nothing is unachievable if you put your mind to it. You can achieve anything that you're imagining in your head, as long as you have people who you can turn to and you have the dedication and determination to go and reach that.
Jessica, can I borrow one of your books?
Take this one. It's my favorite.
Happy Black History Month.
Keep searching for what you're drawn to. Cartoon Network is celebrating great.
So we reached out to Books and Bros for this event, and Sydney's mom who is one of the co-founders of Books and Bros, Winnie Caldwell. She got back to us and was very excited to participate. And even though she couldn't be here with us because she's on the East Coast and she just had a baby, so the time wasn't working for her, she really wanted to participate in this event. And so we sent her some questions and she created a special video for us. So let's take a look.
Hi, I am one half of Books and Bros. My name is Winnie Elizabeth Caldwell, and I am the co-founder of Books and Bros. I actually started it with my son, Sidney Keys III, when he was only 10 years old, and I'll let him tell you a little bit about it.
Hi, my name is Sidney Keys III, and let me tell you a little bit about me. I'm 15 years old, and I'm a business owner. You may have heard of it before. It's called Books and Bros. Books and Bros is a book club that I created when I was 10 years old to advocate for African American literacy. It's for the boys the ages 7 to 13, and we've been able to reach over 500 bros internationally. You may have seen me before on Disney Plus, Oprah's Magazine, Cartoon Network, and even CNN. As a social activist, I plan to continue to do what's right, and I will use my platform to do so.
Now, as you can see, I had to record something a little bit special with Sidney for him to tell you about Books and Bros. He is in school, and he also plays sports. He plays football in addition to running Books and Bros. So he has quite a busy schedule, but I wanted to make sure that one of us was at least here for you all, and we're so grateful that you've had us. So there's a few questions that we were asked, and I am here happy to share them with you. Sidney's relationship with literature prior to Books and Bros was actually probably not normal. As you all can probably see, maybe some parents can relate. Most kids these days are picking up a tablet, a phone, some type of device, electronic device, to keep their attention more so than books. I mean, hey, I even just had a newborn baby, which is also why we couldn't be live tonight. But I just had a newborn baby, and they have baby like selfie toys that you can attach to a stroller, and I'm not eager for her to take any selfies and be on social media anytime soon. But I say all that to say that Sidney's relationship with literature was pretty remarkable. When he was a child, when he was a lot younger, he would actually go to grab a book more so than a phone or a tablet. And honestly, when I raised Sidney, I was raising him as a young single mom. I had Sidney at the young age of 17 years old, and things were limited for us. So yes, we had more books in the house than gadgets and doodads, and I think that it's paid off in the long run. But he had a very remarkable relationship with literature. My mother used to read to him when he was a baby. She would read stories, from lullabies to Dr. Seuss to Mickey Mouse Club, you name it. And I always, was just very passionate about his education ever since he was, a kindergartner. I think I noticed Sidney's relationship with literature was a little bit different around when he was about 8-9 years old, and he would grab a book every time we would leave the house. So if I had to go to the grocery store, if we went to church, or if I had a work meeting, anything, he would always grab a couple books and bring them in the car with him to entertain himself, to read while I drove, while I was in a meeting, essentially while I was doing anything that was too boring for him to be a part of. He would read and escape in his books instead. Which leads me into how Books and Bros came about. So when I noticed that Sidney would grab his books, all the time, regardless of where we were going, I wanted to make sure that I addressed, what his wants and his needs are, what he was interested in at the time. And so he went to go spend a few weeks the summer of 2016 with my mom. My mother now lives in California. She's been there for about 10 years, and she went, she had Sidney spend a few weeks with her. And when Sidney was away, this allowed for me to have more time to be involved in the community. And I actually met up with a friend of mine who unfortunately is not here today. His name is Darren Seals, if you're familiar with the activist from St. Louis. And he brought all these people together in St. Louis just to, you know, support the community, support Black businesses, support small businesses and local initiatives. And while I was there, I found out about this African American children's bookstore called I See Me. And Darren actually helped to organize kind of like a mob, like a flash mob to the store, essentially to support it. So all of these people rushed to I See Me to support them, to buy books, to do, you know, whatever, to support this business. But unfortunately, on that day, I had to work, and so I was not able to go and support at the same time. But it was still very important to me that I support when I could. So I actually took Sidney a couple days after he got back home to St. Louis. You know, I was super excited to take him to the store. I saw the video, you know, of like the people mobbing in the store and, you know, supporting them in a positive way. And so I said, I know I couldn't be a part of it that day, but I want to support in my own way. And so I didn't tell Sidney about the bookstore. I just knew he would be excited. I'd never been there before, but I did see a video of it. And so, yeah, I told Sidney, I said, hey, I got a surprise for you. I'm not going to tell you where we're going. It was on this hot, sunny day in August. Like I said, in 2016, Sidney was 10 years old. And we pull up and we get to this bookstore. Now, he laughs and he tells me, you know, I thought we were going to Dave & Buster's, to an arcade, somewhere, not a bookstore. But at the time, Sidney was excited. And when we walked in, we both were just so enthralled by the images that we saw on the walls and the books that were around us. All of the figures were Black and brown people, from spiritual to historical figures, comic book figures, you name it. I mean, hey, if you think back to what I just said, when my mom was reading to him when he was a baby, when I was reading to him, most of the books were not Black people. They were, like I said, Dr. Seuss, that, you know, did not even have, you know, a race to relate to. Mickey Mouse, you know, the stories that we normally could not see ourselves. Unfortunately, those were the safe spaces at the time, because I wasn't even as familiar with African American literature as I am now, which I am grateful for that. So when we saw all these books, you know, it was a revelation for me. It was a revelation for Sidney. Like, oh my gosh, all of these stories exist. All of these amazing, you know, Black authors exist. What can, you know, we have to stay in this, you know. And so I wanted to support. And honestly, it was my first time recording a Facebook Live video. I asked the owner, hey, you know, can I, you know, just go live on Facebook and support your store? And she said, yeah, that's fine. Mind you, I did not have on any makeup. I was not planning on a lot of people seeing this video. I just wanted enough people to see it to support the store locally. The video ended up going viral. It got over 65,000 views, and Sidney was just reading a book. You know, the book that he was holding at the time had a boy on the cover that looked like him, so of course that resonated with a lot of people. It was a financial literacy book known as Danny Dollar, Millionaire Extraordinaire, and we're very good friends with the author now, Ty Allen Jackson. But, you know, the video just went viral, and it was all of these positive responses, and to this day, I'm very grateful for that moment. I'm grateful that I listened to my gut to record the video, because I did not want to go live. I just wanted to be a mom. I didn't want to be like this social media influencer, blogger, you know, but something told me, support this store. And so I think that's a lesson for all of us to learn is, you know, it won't hurt to support a Black-owned business, to support a locally owned business, especially in a time like now. You know, we're in this global pandemic. Everyone could use additional support and grace as we may have it. So how did I become involved? So, you know, once we had this viral moment with the being at the bookstore, right, and supporting their initiative, I'm always a person of, you know, clearly like recognizing when a void is being filled or needs to be filled. I've always had this entrepreneurial spirit about myself. So, you know, when I noticed that it went viral, I said, clearly we hit something. You know, so I asked Sidney, I said, do you just want this 15 minutes of fame on social media, or do you want to do something about it? And I allowed him to make that choice. And he said, well, I want to do something about it. And he said, are there any book clubs, you know, that we can that I can join and I can read with other boys, and we did not know of any book clubs at the time for boys. And so what do you do when you don't see what you want or what you need? You create it. And so that's how I became involved. At the time, I was a very avid blogger. I believe I was working at a youth nonprofit at the time, so I was learning how to support young people and how to put their ideas and their initiatives before whatever my old brain can think of, So I asked Sidney everything that he wanted, so I took off my mom hat and I put on my momager hat, and I asked him, I said, well, since we don't know of a book club out there, you can start your own. What would you call it? And he said, Books and Bros. And to be honest, I hated the name. I thought it was too simple, but I'm grateful for it. It is simple enough because it, resonates with the people that we are able to serve and to help. So we're grateful for that. That's how he came up with the name. And we just kind of put all the pieces together. So, we said we'd have meetups, we'd have meetup discussions, and we do it at ICMe. So at the time, ICMe's first location was a bit smaller, and we would meet there. Our idea was to meet like every month, and then we wanted to incorporate what we read out of the stories into the meetups. So one of the first stories that we read were the Danny Dollar Millionaire Extraordinary book, because that's what got people's attention. And so Sidney set up like a lemonade stand because that's a part of the story. And I think he sold chips for like 50 cents, something like that. And he actually made a nice amount of money at the book club meetup, and he was very grateful for that. But you know how sometimes if you're an entrepreneur or just an innovative person, you see something and you're like, wait a minute, like the light bulb went off. And that's what happened with me. I saw this moment with these boys enjoying, reading together and like really being enthralled in this story and bringing it to life in the room. And I said, we got something here. And so that's when I bought the domain for Books and Bros for Sidney. So this is like where all the business stuff is coming in, right? I created social media for him. I built his website. I used my skills from blogging to build his website. And essentially all of the background things that a 10-year-old does not know how to do, that's how I became involved. And I'm very grateful as his mother that I've been able to help just kind of carry on this journey, to support him in his, endeavors, and be there for him as his mother as well. With that being said, Books and Bros has expanded into much more than what we even sought out for, what we even imagined. So the mission of Books and Bros is to empower boys to amplify African American literacy via a subscription box program. So we have reached over 500 boys internationally. We're so excited for that, and we're excited to, serve even more internationally, globally, however, we are able to. What I've learned through the journey of building Books and Bros with Sidney, I think that both of us would say that there is an importance of teamwork in community. You cannot do it all alone. Even if you think that you're alone, you're not. There are people who literally live to support you, and we're so grateful for the community that has helped us, to build Books and Bros, to sustain Books and Bros, especially even through a global pandemic. I mean, hey, it's even been pretty difficult for us right now, where we've had to slow things down just due to A, the pandemic, and B, to me having a newborn, and third trimester, fourth trimester is not an easy feat. So just having people in support, no matter where you are in your journey, has been tremendously helpful, and just taking things a day at a time. But I would say probably the other most important thing that I've learned is that it's okay to pivot and it's okay to grow. And that's one thing that I told Sidney at the very beginning, is that, if there's anything that you want to change with Books and Bros, tell me, okay? We can pivot, we can, change some things around. I want to make sure that this initiative grows, sustains, and, just remains within his heart, the more that he grows into a young man. I would say a surprising discovery would possibly be the fact that we thought that well, first, as a business, right, we thought that our customers were essentially just the bros. We wanted to make sure that we served the boys and that we made sure that Books and Bros was appealing to them in all ways possible. But unfortunately, unintentionally, we were dismissing the parents, the guardians, the uncles and aunties, that signed them up. And so a surprising discovery is that they want to be just as involved as the boys. So we are currently working on a way to build a tighter community within Books and Bros for the parents, for the guardians, to have them a bit more involved, because this is a village. This is a growing initiative, and we're very grateful that there are, people that want to be more involved and want to help out more. I would say another discovery also is that those who are interested in joining the book club do not just look like me and Sidney. They are not Black, they're not brown, they're not African American. They are people that identify with other races, and we are proud to say that we have a diverse group of boys that are part of our book club. So, we may have someone who's Black, but we also have Hispanic, Caucasian, Asian. We've had a pretty diverse group of boys to join our book club because they are also interested in learning about African American literature and history that is not being provided to them at their schools. So we're very grateful to be the platform to be able to do that in a non-traditional light. I would say you can engage with Books and Bros in a various of ways. So first, of course, you could sign up your bro. So if you have a bro between the age of 7 to 13, you could sign them up for Books and Bros. Just go to booksandbros.com/about, and it'll tell you all about our program and exactly how you can sign up for a membership with Books and Bros. If you wanted to adopt a bro, so let's say if you're not a parent of a boy, or if you do know someone that you would like to essentially adopt as a bro, so that way they don't have to cover the cost of the subscription, then you could sign them up through the Adopt a Bro program. And I would also say you could support, essentially we're still all about supporting small businesses, locally owned businesses. We are living in Atlanta, Georgia now. We are no longer in St. Louis, but our heart is still there, and we still have a community there. So if you are a local business in St. Louis or Atlanta, or hey, if you're a small business anywhere, feel free to reach out. I will put my email address here for you, and that way you can reach out to me for, some support. We can get your stuff. If you have books, if you have, cool trinkets that the boys will like, we can place that inside of our boxes and get it shipped out and support your initiative as well. And as always, we're very grateful for this opportunity. I hope that all of the panelists, have been amazing. We're grateful to be here, to be a part of the room, even virtually. And we hope that everyone is taking care of themselves during this time and just giving yourself a bit of grace. Feel free to follow us. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, all platforms, Books and Bros. And there you go. Thank you so much. Bye.
Yay! A huge shout out to Winnie and Sidney, and a huge thank you for putting that together, and to Books and Bros for all of their awesome work. We dropped the address for their website in the chat, and Winnie also told us how to get in touch with them. So again, thank you to Books and Bros. They are an amazing organization. And now over to Mabelle.
So we just wanted to point out that we have more resources. These are available on our website. We have the Brown Bookshelf. We Need Diverse Books. Sankofa Read Aloud is a YouTube channel that has a vast collection of read alouds of picture books by Black KidLit creators and more. It's a wonderful resource. And of course, we have the link from our panelist Brandi Grant on our website as well. The BIPOC reads. I mean, it's so much. What a gift, Brandi. Thank you so much for that.
And at this time, we ask you right now, really quickly, as we're getting close to our closing remarks, what will you do to amplify Black voices in KidLit? If you could just take a second and type into the chat one thing that you can do today. It's actionable, because we always in our events like to emphasize that we're not just learning here in passivity, that we're taking action. What would you like to do? That could range from picking up a book and reading any one of those great suggestions and recommendations that Brandi gave us, or just engaging a little more deeply with some of the other websites that we showed. So feel free to just take a second and type into the chat one thing that you might try as a result of all the great things that we've learned today.
All right, and as those continue to come in, thank you so much. We'll be also sharing all of the responses when we send the summary email out. Now I'd like to introduce Dr. Suzanne Stolz, who is a very good colleague and friend of mine from the Department of Learning and Teaching. And she brings an amazing lens of disability studies into this conversation, and we're just really lucky to have her. So I will hand it over to you, Suzanne.
Thank you. Thank you all for spending this time with us here today, thinking about and sharing experiences with Black voices in KidLit, considering imagination and possibility. I appreciated the time for sharing of books we read as children and considering how they had a part in shaping us, in telling us what matters. Many of us acknowledge not seeing ourselves in books we read as children, and I can't help but wonder how we might be different had we. As educators, we ask, do the books we use represent our student body? In his video, Jason Reynolds highlights a need to be inclusive, to help children learn to see everyone as part of their communities. He says literature kills germs, the kind of germs that prevent us from seeing the humanity of our neighbors, that prevent us from understanding how we fit in. Brandi Grant provided us with insight into how she promotes Black voices in KidLit to teachers, and she provided fantastic resources. In my work, I've made effort to amplify the voices of Black disabled authors like Ronnie Sidney, Kia Brown, Ladera Korn, and my friend Leroy Moore. I'd like to share a part of the dedication Leroy wrote in his book, Black Disabled Art History 101. Dedication. This book is dedicated to all the disabled children and youth searching for a mirror, for histories, for stories, and for images that say, you are not alone. You are being carried by disabled Black and brown adults who were once disabled Black and brown children and youth. We want you to continue on your path and lead others in new directions. I loved learning today about Sidney and Winnie of Books and Bros. I also loved learning from Brandi, was inspired by the changes she made at her school library, having difficult conversations and doing what's right for students. And going into Friday evening, I was especially excited about the description of book tastings. We are eating books, she said. So thank you so much to the organizers of this event, and thank you all for your time and your plans to go forward to feed our communities. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Stolz. I just wanted to thank everyone. I know we've gone over a little bit, but I wanted to tell you about our two events that are coming up. One is on October 29th, where we will be healing through art. And on November 12th, where we're going to look at how race is political and exploring the untruth behind We the People. I also want to just say a heartfelt thanks to Brandi you know, as you were speaking, it really hit me how you talked about finding that inner sense of your worth and knowing that you had to live that out. And what an amazing and beautiful message to send to all of us. I once again just want to say thank you and have a wonderful, wonderful evening. We will also put the flyer. Do we have a link to the flyer that we can put into the chat so that people can access that and join us for our next events? Let's stop recording now. There we go.